This is Bryce Van Patten from Metal Express Radio Backstage. Today my guests are from the Sacramento-based Symphonic Goth progressive metal band that's on the rise. They've just released their third album, The Uncertain Hour. The band is Graveshadow, and my guests today are Rachl, Raxx, Quinn, and guitarist William Lloyd Walker. I'll ask you, if someone had never heard of Graveshadow before and you had to explain your sound in an elevator pitch, how would you describe the sound?
It's funny. The symphonic moniker, I think, applies primarily to our first record, and it's been a thread that has kind of followed us throughout every release that we've done. But the way the sounds evolved from the end of the second record to the first record, usually when I talk to people, I tell it's like, oh, symphonic power metal. And they go like, oh, what's that? And I go like Maiden Priest style guitars, but then our guitarist arranges these orchestrations and synth tones that play behind us. That's usually kind of the way that I describe it. I don't know, Rachel, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I would say the same. It's like that power symphonic thing with, kind of a gothic edge to it. My favorite is, kind of just reading reviews and, reading things that kind of come in, and every single one describes us differently and they don't really know where to place us, but they do always have those three things. They always have power, they always have symphonic, and they always have gothic. So I think those are kind of the three.
Sure. I had you as symphonic goth progressive metal.
Ooh, I think that. Hell yeah.
I don't think I left anything out on that one. So, cool. So you guys just came off of the tour supporting the new album. How did that go?
Overall, I thought it went well. We had some challenges. Actually, it's, not funny, but, you're talking about how you had some air conditioning problems. We had some air conditioning problems. We started the tour and when we got to San Diego for the San Diego show, we got there really early. And so we were kind of posted up in a parking lot. We're running the generator and, everybody's kind of doing their thing. And everybody went out and I was staying back sleeping and the air conditioning unit went out. You could turn it on and you could hear it doing its thing, but the fan wouldn't blow. So we had a very stressful evening trying to figure that out. And then when we had an off day between San Diego and Oakland, and thankfully when we got out of San Diego and out of the humidity to the base of the Grapevine in LA, the air conditioning unit started working again. But
just randomly started working. And then about 45 minutes outside of Sacramento, it died again. So we had to condense and consolidate and finish the run out in two cars, instead of having everybody in the same vehicle. But overall, I thought the shows went really well, despite some challenges. And honestly, just this lineup, this is really the first time the lineup actually got a chance to play together. We didn't have the band had been rehearsing for months and Rachel had been rehearsing on her own, but we didn't have our first full rehearsal until the day before we left. Wow.
So it was a little bit of trial by fire. We had, there were some other challenges that kind of cropped up. I think I'm going to let you talk about that one, but unfortunately Rachel got sick.
I did.
Which was a huge
that you saw me in at Dante's. I was deathly ill.
You had said that you had a cold and you were trying to get over that. And go ahead though. So.
Yeah, no, for sure. And like as a high range singer, it cut out about half of my range, which really sucked. But, I think all in all, I would consider touring a success, and gelling with, essentially new people, even though we had known each other for quite some time, but, really coming together as a band unit. I think it was really successful, and I feel a lot closer to my bandmates, and, we're hungry. We're looking forward to the next one at this point.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Yeah. So I thought you guys put on a hell of a show. I thought you did great. Were there any other highlights for the tour for you? Any other, besides your air conditioning breaking down, anything else exciting or strange or weird?
I had the best sushi of my life in Portland. It's kind of like, I went to have dinner by myself just as an opportunity to kind of clear my head. And there's this sushi joint behind Dante's.
that just said sushi. And I said, you know what, that's where I'm going to go. And I walked in expecting good, not great, but great for the price.
Right.
And it was top to bottom, best sushi I've ever had in my life. Really awesome staff. I wish I knew the name of the restaurant. All I know is that it just says sushi and it's right over there across the street from Voodoo Donuts. So anybody watching this, you should go there. Give them money. They're awesome.
Excellent. So if you guys could tour with anybody, like just kind of a dream thing, like who would be the best band to tour with to get Graveshadow out there?
For me, it would be Amon Amarth. Like an Amon Amarth, supporting Amon Amarth would be kind of like a dream come true for me. They've always been like one of my favorite bands, a huge influence on my playing. Iron Maiden would be another one. Sabaton would be another one that I would love to work with. And then as far as like, I guess those are all like, huge AAA bands and everything like that. But, I'd also love to tour Seven Spires. I'd love to do another tour with Unleash the Archers. I would love to do some stuff with the Sound of Thunder. It's like, there aren't very many people that I wouldn't want to tour with,
right.
Kind of the thing. But I think those are some names that I would absolutely like jump on the opportunity for.
Rachel?
Yeah, and I'm going to posit some of your female fronted acts out there as well, just because I think that those female fronted tours are actually pretty cool. So
for sure.
I'm going to jump back on with Iron Maiden, of course, number one.
Yeah, you can't go wrong there.
No, you can't. You can. But Hailstorms, your Hailstorms, and your female fronted acts like that, I would love to jump on with as well, and some of your smaller acts as well that are at a little bit bigger than us, like Master Sword, and like he mentioned, A Sound of Thunder. There's so many that I would love to jump on a package with that we haven't had the opportunity to do so yet.
Doro and be amazing.
Yeah, Doro, absolutely, absolutely. So seems like an explosion of female fronted metal bands in the last 10 years. Do you guys have any comment on that or thoughts?
I think kind of, yeah. It's interesting because when Graveshadow first started, and we were all based in Sacramento, Sacramento has a pretty vibrant and a pretty healthy music scene that's gone through like different change. I've been playing in the scene since I was 13. I'm in my early 30s. And, when I first started playing, it was really punk heavy and there was a lot of metalcore. And then it kind of got quiet for a little while. Not quiet like there was nothing there, but just it felt like there weren't as many shows happening as there used to be. And then they were probably always there and I just wasn't paying attention. But then it started feeling like after we kind of started doing our thing, we started seeing more and more female fronted acts start cropping up, specifically symphonic acts, which I thought was interesting. And no way do I think that we like blazed a trail or anything like that. Right. I mean, the style of music that we play has been around for a really long time. There's a lot of people who are into it, but it didn't really feel like there were a lot of bands doing that style. So it was kind of cool. It was kind of cool to see that on a local level. I also think it's really cool to see it happening on more of the national, international stage as well. Because if I'm going to be completely honest, it's some of my favorite metal singers are women. I love Floor Jansen. Floor Jansen's is probably a top 5 singer for me. I think she's awesome. So it's really cool. And these are obviously these artists I'm talking about are artists that had careers like prior to kind of like this explosion and everything. But I think that, them getting out and doing what they do kind of, I don't know, maybe I'm speaking out of turn here, but maybe in some ways it almost feels like it inspired a lot of people to actually get out there and do it. But I think Rachel could probably talk about that a little bit more authentically than I could.
Okay.
I think that for a long time we never had an absence of women in the industry, but we never saw them rise to such heights that we see them at now. And so I think what we've seen is a shift, and we've seen a lot of female fronted acts and women led acts gaining huge popularity. Right. And it says to a lot of younger and smaller acts that it's safe now. You can do this. So I don't necessarily think, and it could be a trend. I mean, trends do rise and fall, but I think that that way has been paved. It's safe for us. It's safe for us to express ourselves, and it's safe for us to be in that space. Whereas 20 years ago, it wasn't as safe. It wasn't as known. It was a lot more of a gimmick, and it was a lot more of a risk. And now it's not. It's a viable thing. So that's why I think we're seeing more of it.
Yeah, and I'm really glad. More power to it, because for the longest time, I mean, I grew up playing music through the 80s, and at that time, heavy metal was kind of a men's club.
Yeah.
With just very few. I mean, you had Lita Ford and a couple, I mean, very, very few female acts at the time. But I think since, Evanescence was a big one out there, and then I'm happy to see so many bands have followed, definitely in the last 20 years. So, and you guys sound great. So I'm just happy to see a lot of female singers myself, because, range, tone, all these things that work so well with heavy metal.
I think there are probably some people that would disagree with me, but in a lot of ways, I tend to enjoy the bands fronted by women a little bit more than the bands that are fronted by men. And this is wrong, but I feel like there's a lot, and this probably isn't just true for men who are singing in metal, and it's probably a little bit true for women who are also singing in metal. But I feel like when I'm watching a band with a woman singing, I feel like there's a little bit more creativity and uniqueness that goes into it. It doesn't quite feel like they're all trying to sound like Floor or Tarja or Charlotte or whoever.
Right.
Whereas I feel like there's a lot of guys who get into singing in metal, and it's, I want to be Ripper, or I want to be Halford, or I want to be Bruce.
Right.
And, there's a lot of really fantastic, awesome, talented guys out there that are doing it. But, I almost feel like you get more of an opportunity to break the mold musically, if that makes sense. And not just that there's a woman up there fronting the band, but like to what you're saying, range, tone. My mother's a soprano and has been involved in musical theater like my entire life. And so hearing women sing has always been something that's been around my entire life. I've been around it, ever since I was a kid. And those voices just tend to be more interesting to me. So I don't know. Again, it's a little bit of a tangent. I don't know if I made much sense there.
No, I get you. I want to say, so your band went through a pretty serious lineup change here for this last record, with, of course, Rachl, you joining, bass player, drummer. Can you guys talk about that a little bit and what led to the changes?
Sure. Yeah. So in short, the easiest way to describe it is burnout. At the end of 2018, we had gone out and we had done several runs. We toured with Unleash the Archers, Anvil, Night Demon, Serenia, Arcona, and opened up.
I love Serenia.
Oh, they were awesome. Those shows were great. We did, and what was really cool is that Serenia Arcona run was, at least from what my understanding of it was Serenia's first tour in the States. And so getting the opportunity to hop onto that and support them, and also get to play with Arcona was an awesome experience. But I would say it became doing this stuff is unfortunately not cheap. It takes money. And when we were kind of in the thick of touring, everybody was kind of doubled down and in for the investment. But very shortly thereafter, the last run, it wasn't a bad run from a financial standpoint, but, we did this gig with Tarja down in Mexico and built a little tour around it that was primarily in Texas, which was a market that we hadn't been to in probably about 2-3 years at that point. And we were competing with Unleash the Archers. And I think Judas Priest was on tour at the same time.
Right.
And so every night that we would be in town, there'd be like one of those shows was happening. So they weren't,
it's kind of unfortunate.
Yeah, they weren't the best attended shows, which kind of compounded some feelings that some of the other members had started to have about longevity and whether or not it was something that they wanted to continue doing. And so after our last, we did that tour. We had one show after that tour opening for Angra here in Sacramento. And after that show happened, we all came to rehearsal the following week, and Heather had let us know that she was going to leave because she just had other areas of her life that she wanted to focus on. And when that happened, Ben decided that he was going to go back to school. I'm actually really proud of that guy. He just finished his bachelor's. I think now he's in a master's program up at Humboldt State working on fire restoration and fire ecology, which is a huge passion of his. It's doing that. The Roman thing is not that I intend to be cryptic, but the things that happened there are kind of things that I've said I will not speak publicly about.
No problem.
I'm going to unfortunately just say that there are some things that happened that the working and professional relationship was just unfortunately something that could not continue. That fell apart. Aaron and I continued writing, and we started looking for a singer, and he got Rachel's audition tape and sent it to me through a mutual friend of theirs, Avi. And I think I listened to 30 seconds of it before I hung up the phone, and I said, I don't care what you have to do, but get her. And then it all kind of started coming together from there. Lucy was recommended to me by somebody that I used to work with, and she's been fantastic. Bones came in because Aaron and Bones have worked together in different projects. We actually were working with a previous drummer before Bones, but they decided they couldn't commit to the project, and Bones kind of came in honestly very last minute, and learned the record, tracked the record, started rehearsing the record. It was initially going to be kind of like a fill-in position, but we ended up offering him, the gig. And it's been pretty good. COVID definitely threw some wrenches into the gears and made things a little bit more challenging. We're also more spread out than we've ever been before. So it's been almost like learning new terrain, but it's been good. That's kind of my perspective. I don't know, Rachel, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, that's how it happened.
So what were you doing, Rachel, before this happened? And tell me a little bit about you. And
yeah, sure. So I live in Ohio. So fun facts, I'm all the way on the other side of the country.
Right.
And I had actually just moved to Ohio from Chicago. I was in the Chicagoland area for about 5 years. I'm a music teacher. So I teach for School of Rock, and I was, working at School of Rock Arlington Heights out that way. And I was in a band, a traditional metal band called Shocker. And that ended. And I was floundering, really. I wasn't really doing much of anything. And honestly, I was pretty depressed until Graveshadow kind of came into my life. And at the time, I was in a Maiden tribute, and that was a lot of fun. And I was doing a couple of other small things and just seeing, kind of what would stick, but I still really wasn't, feeling anything that I was kind of involved with. And I thought, I cannot take on another band. I can't do this. And then I listened to Graveshadow, and I was like, okay, I can do this. And at the end, as it stands right now, I'm still in a Maiden tribute, and I'm in Graveshadow, and that's it. And I'm happier than I've ever been. So
Awesome. So the new album, The Uncertain Hour, really great record. Can you talk a little bit about how you write and how you record?
Yeah. So Graveshadow has always been a collaborative project. And, I know that the typical mold for most, got one, maybe two members that are kind of orchestrating everything from, writing, production, everything like that. And there's a lot of bands that use that model, and I think that model works really great. I enjoy the collaborative environment because I think you get more diversity musically that way. It's less likely to get kind of pigeonholed into one style.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. It's, I like that, the way that I write is, it's as far as like the musical side of it goes, accepting vocals. It's me and Aaron primarily. And, I think the difference between Aaron and I is, I would call Aaron a composer. That's what I would call him. He's a keyboard player first and foremost, on top of being a fantastic guitar player.
Wow. Awesome.
Yeah. The way that he approaches writing is very much, top to bottom composition. Like when he writes, he's not just writing guitar parts, he's writing guitars, and then he writes keys, and he'll write a bass line, a rudimentary drum pattern, which is not the way that I write. When I started,
right.
I was into punk and I was into thrash. And so usually when I write, one of two things happens. Either I'm hit with a total bolt of inspiration and I write out a song start to finish from a guitar perspective, and then bring that to the group and be like, let's flesh this out. Let's add the meat and, the muscle and the skin and everything like that to it.
Right.
I get half a bolt of inspiration and I get 3 or 4 riffs that I think work really well together, and I workshop it for a little while, and, I hit a block, and that's when I'll go to Aaron and I'll just be like, hey man, I got these riffs. I don't know what to do with them. What do you think? And then he usually ends up doing something that I would have never thought to do. Maybe it starts off power thrashy, but then there's this, doom or shoegaze breakdown that happens in the middle of the song that kind of comes a little bit out of left field. And I like that. That's the kind of stuff that I like. It's almost kind of like, you can be listening to like a thrash song and you might be going through a really rhythmic passage, and then all of a sudden the BPM is jumped up 30 and, you're off to the races with it. I like that kind of stuff. I like those surprises. So collaborative is definitely the way. And then usually once a song has gotten to a point to where it's mostly finished, then at least what we did for this record is we would send it to Rachl, and then Rachl would start adding the vocal melody into it and the lyrics and all that good stuff. But there's always ongoing conversation. And like with Aaron, if he brings me a song that's completely finished, at that point, it almost becomes more of like a production conversation. It's like, this part's really awesome, but maybe it needs to be pared down a little bit, or maybe the transition from here to here isn't quite as smooth as it could be. And, that's something that happened with Soldier of 34. Soldier of 34's first iteration was like 7.5 minutes long.
Right.
And, we went back and forth for a while, kind of paring it down and trying to make it flow a little bit more. And we even cut some things out of it when we were in the studio recording it at the recommendation of the engineer, Justin Alfenkamp. So it's, collaboration and remaining open are kind of the two biggest things. I think that, a lot of people can get into that situation where it's, oh, you're criticizing my work. You're criticizing me. And it's like, no. It's like, we all care about the band. We all care about the song. We just want it to be the best that we can possibly make it. And I think that, just kind of that dynamic has kind of been reestablished throughout this whole recording, this records process. As far as recording goes, this was different than any other project I've ever done. I'm very just going into the studio and pounding it out. But because of COVID and Justin being out in Ohio, Rachl being out in Ohio, things were kind of fragmented. We did drums at one studio. We DI'd guitars with Justin, and then he reamped them for us. Aaron produced the orchestrations at his home studio, and but I've been talking for a minute. I'm gonna let you jump in here, Rachl, and kind of talk about all this.
So I was gonna say, Rachl, did you then get to write the melodies and lyrics to the completed music, and it's just up to you to do some of that stuff?
No, some of those, sometimes I didn't have, a full map with all instrumentation given to me. Sometimes I was given a MIDI map to write over top of as well. So, oftentimes that would happen, but essentially I would have something that was laid out for me, and I would start by charting out the structure and making sure that I had the structure in mind. And that would often revert to a couple of phone calls to Aaron going, okay, what the fuck is the structure on this? This doesn't make any sense. And he'd go, well, that's verse A, and then verse B is right here, and so we would get that structure worked out, and I would write the lyrics and the melody from then on. The only exception being The Betrayer. That's the only song on record that I didn't write lyrics for, but I did write melody for. And we take inspiration from Fandoms, essentially. Which is something, that I've said before is very different for me, because I'm used to writing things that are very close to my chest, that I really feel and I pull from, experiences within my own life. And I got to have fun and go, okay, well, I'm going to write this one about Attack on Titan. I'm going to write this one about Rurouni Kenshin. I'm going to write this one about The Witcher. I'm going to write this one about, X, Y, and Z.
Oh, so you got to come up with the theme then as well?
Yeah, absolutely.
They didn't already have say, this is the title, go, or something like that?
No, they just said, whatever you're feeling, put it down, and, you should definitely think about relating it to a fandom, because that's what Graveshadow's done before in the past. And that's when you get phone conversations between me and Will. And I'm like, it's another fucking anime song.
Which is kind of,
go ahead.
Oh yeah, sorry. Which, I would say as far as theme goes, like something that we've done from the second record onward is kind of choosing like a loose theme. The second record's theme was, the cost of ambition, and kind of exploring all the sacrifices that everybody had made to kind of get the band to where it was at that stage. And with this one, the loose theme was reason within chaos, because that was, one, what the whole world was going through at the time, but in our own little microcosm, that's what we were going through. Right. So it was, something that I've always liked about this band is that, I look at we're storytellers. That's what we like to do. We like to tell stories. We do tell personal stories at times, but other times it's honoring a story that's touched us in our life or been inspirational to us. Everybody has that. You got a book that makes you feel better, a song that makes you feel better, a favorite TV show, a favorite movie, something that you go to when you need to be comforted. That's kind of, so like, when kind of picking themes and everything like that, that was really the only like guiding, that was really kind of like the only thing that was really guiding it is just, try to find a story that fits within this very loose concept. And basically amassing a track of, a body of work that kind of represents that.
Yeah, I think it's awesome that, Rachl, your first time in the band and you're already given the freedom to do all that. Whereas, a lot of bands, you have to kind of, that doesn't happen instantly, if you know what I mean. So,
and to be honest, I don't think I'd be involved within a project that wouldn't allow me to have a lot of that freedom.
For sure.
I'm a great singer. I'm really good at what I do. And I'm not going to stifle myself. I'm just not going to let anybody do that. I've worked hard. I've worked hard to do what I do.
Exactly.
And I'm not going to be, pigeonholed by anybody.
That was honestly one of the biggest things that I liked about Rachl. Like when we first started talking was that she knows what she brings to the table. She knows her worth. She's dedicated. She's committed. It's like, that was also like from my standpoint is, Aaron and I's standpoint really was just like, all right, we can trust her is really kind of the big thing. And it felt like that was kind of there from the beginning.
Yeah. The beautiful thing is when you get people that like to collaborate, I've always felt that like in those situations, 1 + 1 = 3, know what I mean? Because you get something it's not just another thing. It's becomes something more powerful and more more creative, greater than the sum of the parts.
Yeah.
So, and I think you guys, do a great job of that. So other than kind of what you mentioned, was there any other ways that the pandemic really affected the band or your lives as musicians?
It always made, I think one of the things that I like, and Rachl might roll her eyes at me here, but, because it was so hard to get out here, it was usually always about maximizing the amount of time that we had with her every time that she was out here. Mm-hmm. And on some level, I would always feel bad for her because, like, she'd land in San Francisco and then the next day we'd have to get up at like 8 a.m. and go do a photo shoot or go do a music video shoot or do something. So there was no time to adjust, no time to relax. I don't think this is the first time you've actually gotten sick coming out here, Rachl, if I remember correctly. But
I think I get sick almost every time I go out.
those airplanes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I remember I think it was the first time you came out here when we did the first photo shoot and we went to Land's End in San Francisco. It's just on the coast. It's really pretty. And we're trying to get down to the location. And, I just hopped over a guardrail and started climbing down the mountain and everybody else started following me. And Rachel's in leather pants and a leather jacket and high-heeled boots yelling at me. It's like, I didn't know I'd have to go hiking. And I just yelled back at her, come on, Billy Goat.
Nobody told me.
Unfortunately, nobody fell or twisted it.
No, all good. But I think that was the challenge was, trying to fit in as much as possible whenever we were all together and not that it didn't, lead to, your kind of traditional like team building, bonding and everything like that. But it was just always so go, 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 that there was never any real time to just kind of like sit down and just kind of like, enjoy each other's company, sit down, shoot the shit, have a beer, whatever it is.
Right.
Recording was definitely probably, I think, the biggest challenge. Initially Aaron and I DI'd everything on our own and sent it to Justin. But I got a call from him like 3 days after we sent the tracks over. And before I say this, Aaron and I are not audio engineers. Mm-hmm. But, he called me and he just said, like, hey, I can use what you sent me, but if I do, the guitar is going to be the weak link on the record. And so he offered to fly out from Ohio to San Francisco where Aaron lives. And we holed up in Aaron's apartment for about 4 days and read all of the guitar, because Justin brought out some of his own, interfaces and things like that. And which was absolutely the right decision. It translated so much better than what was originally done. But I think that ultimately, and then honestly, just, the constant uncertainty of, okay, we did the record. Now we need to gig. Are we even going to be able to gig? Like, it's like, are things even going to be open enough for us to be able to gig?
Yeah. Can you travel? Can you not?
Exactly. Yeah. Can we do any of that? So I think that, operating within that level of uncertainty and lack of clarity was definitely a challenge, on this end. But, I'm sure, Rachel, I'm sure you got some challenges like from your perspective as well.
Yeah, no, for sure. I mean, during the recording process, there was a long time there where I couldn't even get in with Justin because of COVID, and we had COVID concerns. And so that was not fun. And my emotional state was not where it should be. And Justin's a tough engineer. He's extremely tough. He kicks your ass in the studio. And so not being in the best emotional state and having somebody go, you can do that better, is not exactly the easiest. So that, definitely made the process all the more challenging. That and, just being afraid of traveling and catching COVID and then traveling, to California and getting it. That was always a worry on my end, too, because I didn't want to be traveling during the pandemic, but we had to do what we had to do as well. So, I mean, he's absolutely right. It was uncertain the entire time. And it was a mixed bag of emotions. And I'm really glad that we're on the quote unquote tail end of it at this point.
Yeah, it's really great that you have somebody to engineer like that. Your story reminds me of the classic Iron Maiden Number of the Beast story where Bruce is asked to do the 30-second or whatever scream. 4 lines. You know what I mean? Like for the 32nd time, and he throws a chair at the wall, because Martin Birch says, no, that one isn't it. You got to go again, and so, it's great. And a lot of bands don't really have a producer. I'm finding these days, a lot of bands are self-produced and they're doing, one guy will do his parts in his studio, another guy will do his in his studio. Sometimes the drums actually go into a real studio because you really got to have that sound. But it sounds like you guys had a little bit of that going on as well.
Definitely. And I think it added overall, Justin made a lot of recommendations, like while we were retracking all of that guitar, that made songs flow better, made songs a little catchier, made them a little hookier, just made them flow overall better. And, it's kind of like that age old thing, bands see the producer as, the boogeyman or somebody who's there to stifle their creativity. And I think it gets back to kind of what we talked about earlier in this conversation, is that, it's a collaborative environment from start to finish, and it's collaborative beyond just the members of the band. It's like, of course, the way that we operate is, we operate democratically, and, if somebody recommends something to us and the group isn't necessarily on board with it, we'll talk about it. But if everybody's
right.
against it, necessarily do it. But I am usually of the opinion that, we work with our team for a reason. We decided to go with Justin for a reason. His track record with Miss May I, his career overall, the fact that he has a way more experience doing this than we do. And that also extends to like our label and our management and our agent. And it's, I don't always agree with everything that they have to say, but I'm not going to be quick to go, no, fuck that. just because it's not, coming from our immediate camp. It's like, there's a reason that we work with these people. There's a reason that we decided to trust these people. And if we're not going to listen to them and we're not going to entertain those ideas, then why are we working with them?
Yeah. And I'm running a little short on time, but I was just going to add in that, it is kind of a luxury for bands these days to have a producer because that's not always in the budget. You know what I mean? So I think it's great that you guys do. Lastly, I'm going to ask, is there, what else does 2022 have in store for Graveshadow?
We're going to try to do a small, very small run of dates in October. We're working on getting that booked right now.
Excellent.
We're going to be having some conversations just about some more content. We do have a little tour music video that should be coming out here in the next month or so. We're just getting a few things dialed in with the release of that. Writing, and then aggressively looking for opportunities for next year. The idea is really to try to make 2023 a larger year. I think this year was mostly about getting the record out, getting our feet wet, getting the lineup out and performing. And now it's about really kind of pivoting and trying to find, strategically trying to pick those opportunities that are going to help us the most and get us in front of as many people as we possibly can.
Right. You guys are all solidified now. So was there anything else that you guys want to throw in, Rachel? Anything else you want to say, or any shout outs or anything we missed?
Oh, yeah. Nothing much else to add, for the remainder of the year, other than we are going to be starting up a weekly Twitch stream to do World of Warcraft. So
yeah,
awesome.
We're excited about that.
Awesome.
Yeah. But nothing else to add here. We appreciate you taking time to sit down with us and talk with us today.
No, I love it. Thank you guys for being here. And, just thanks again. Graveshadow, The Uncertain Hour, out now. People need to go buy the album. It's great. And support bands. Bands don't make money off streaming. So buy the shirts, buy the albums, at least buy the downloads. Get something to put money back in the musicians' pockets, because it's a struggle and you guys deserve it.